So, you've come back to Duel Links because for once in our lifetimes Konami has decided to say, hey, let's give you Copium Zeus. And you have decided to now play Tellarknight. Well, let me tell you this, sonny boy. Yeah, the deck's actually not that bad. It's surprisingly good. As you can tell, the only thing in the deck that's not really Tellarknight based is Book of Moon, which is honestly replaceable by any staple. And if you so wish to, you can cut down a Vega and you can get rid of Sirius for any other staple you want. Like, you see this? Pick your choice. You want Monster Reborn? Go ahead. You want MSD? Put it in. Wouldn't be annoying as hell. And play Triple Floodgate? You do what you want to do. This simply just went as the most odd variant as I could bring out. Because otherwise, if you go with a lot of back row, this deck turns really controlly, which is not bad. But this, to me at least, feels a lot more aggro. Also, just to be clear here, my suggestion: do not buy the structure deck at 3. Because there's 2 big cards that you want. Actually, more like 3 that are not in the structure deck. First and foremost being Stellar Nova Alpha, which is your Omni Negate for the deck, that on top of Omni Negating allows you to draw a card. On top of this you have Altair, or whatever, which is essentially unsummon a Monster Reborn from Tellarknight, which is really good, since floating into this boy means to resummon anything from the grave. On top of this, you will in fact need 3 Deneb. It's pretty good. It's your Rhoda for the deck, well, Chi. And I hope those bells at the background are being captured by the audio, but if they are, damn. But issue is, this deck is a bit iffy, because every single monster essentially will get you another one, which is good. Vega special summons for the hand. Altair summons from the grave. Deneb searches a monster. Unuka dumps a monster like Rhoda, like a Foolish Burial, and in Sirius recycles 5 Tellarknights from the grave, including the extra deck monsters, and allows you to draw a card. So overall, the deck has all the way from recovery to ease of access when it comes to summons. If we add up to the fact that Skybridge, which is, by the way, immensely free to play since it's just a level up reward of Tory Meadows, allows you to have essentially a Swallow's Nest for what it was for Harpies. The only condition is that it just simply like any other type of summoning that would not be a Tellarknight. So, example, if you go use Stellarknight Skybridge, you cannot go into Malevolent Sin, you cannot go into Dark Rebellion, you cannot go into Abyss Dweller. But you will be able to go into your Bathlamius. Did I say that correctly? Bathlamius, yes I did. Your Delteros, and especially your Triverr. On top of this, like I said, it can be used during the battle phase since it's a quick play, and you can essentially bounce back any of the current Tellarknights that you have, whether it be the XCs or any monster in the field, to summon a Tellarknight from the deck by returning a Tellarknight on the field to the deck. I do have a question with a few rulings, and anybody can answer me. I would actually like to know, because I believe in one of the replays, maybe, I ended up using Skybridge on Triverr, and it didn't send it back to the deck, so I kept it on field, which surprised me, to be sure. So I don't know if that's a bug with the card, but he didn't go back to deck, so which is pretty good. I didn't test it otherwise because I thought it might happen eventually, because I think it's on the turn that 60 summon and won't be able to return to deck. I couldn't necessarily find the ruling in specific. So if anybody has an answer for that ruling, I would greatly appreciate it, because it caught me really off guard. But anywho, essentially you have an ability to get a monster out of the deck, which then will like to special summon or search or dump or recycle. The same way that you can OTK with just the monsters on the field. And this, you have an Omni Negate that allows you to draw a card by sacking off a monster, so eventually you plus of it, even though you're technically going -1. But if you do send a card like Triverr or Deltaros with Alpha, that in fact will get you a special summon on top of this, so you can technically break even with Alpha and one of the XCs. Overall, when it comes to the XCs, which is the bread and butter of this, it literally feels so good to go into Triverr. You don't need more than one. If you want to have two, be my guest. But in my opinion, you just need one. Because the main XC that you're going to go into is Blatlamius. Because, here's the thing. There's the... People will think that, oh, you're removing an XC material from it, so it only has 2 uses, and on top of this, you're sending a card from your hand to the grave. Yes, that's exactly what I'm doing, which means I can keep another monster on field. So, for example, when you want to go into Deltaros with Blatlamius, and you, let's say you summoned Vega, you went into Altair, and you had another monster in hand, so you summoned the Neb. The Neb then searches you a card. Instead of going 3 materials, you just use 2 for your Blatlamius, discard whatever you search with the Neb, you go to Deltaros, and Deltaros plus, like, Altair or any of the other Tellarknights, except Vega, is game. So overall, keeping a monster on field, which can also be used as a tribute for also as a material so you can send to the grave with Alpha, is really, really good. So in my personal opinion, Blatlamius should be year 2. Also, it's the highest attack of the Tellarknights, which can come up in the mirror, since both Triverr and Deltaros are really tiny. So Blatlamius at the end of the day ends up unironically being also your out to the mirror, especially since you can summon it after you've done Skybridge or Altair, because Altair also restricts you to only Tellarknight monsters, which is what Blatlamius essentially becomes a beater. The XCs overall, just simply for the sake of having some outs to certain stuff, like let's say your opponent's really relying on the graveyard, you go Abyss Dweller, your monster is a big boy monster, you cannot really get over it, you use Dark Rebellion. Same goes for Malevolent Sin. If the monster cannot be destroyed by card effects or battle, you Malevolent Sin it. For targeting, essentially that's where you'll rely on Alpha being able to negate whatever was happening before it solves. And also the fact that you see summon Triverr, whatever they summoned, we don't care what type of Luna Light player you are, it's going back into the deck. I actually did have a really cool replay where I think I may have lost it too, but I don't know, where I bounced 2 Fortune Ladies Every into the deck after he spent like a good old 2 minutes. He was playing Light Swords, I believe, and he summoned 2 Everys, and I just Triverred him back to the deck, and he had no hand traps, so I OTK'd him. Or no, actually I'm pretty sure he then tried it. I couldn't kill him, and then he tried to levy me, which I negated, and then he surrendered because Alpha, which is really nice. But if you're probably wondering, then if this is so good, what can beat it? Then anything that can interrupt your 2 summons or 3 summons will essentially make this deck go wah 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 wah. Which is a lot of the time why sometimes people will wait for you to go into your XC, because usually at that point it's just better to just simply interrupt the XC, get rid of it, whatever. Because you can't really hard summon Triverr unless you have 3 Tellarknights, because Blatlamius is just 2. But then you still need to use the fact to go into Triverr so they can just interrupt Blatlamius. So a lot of the time if you get to summon 2 monsters and you have like a Book of Moon or whatever backer you choose to use and an Alpha, just set both and pass, because Alpha will allow you to get interruptions for the plus a draw, and stuff like Book of Moon is also interruptions. Which, by the way, Book of Moon is amazing in the mirror match, because Alpha specifically says that you need to send a 1 face-up Tellarknight monster, like right here. Which means that if you Book of Moon whatever they had, if they just summoned the Neb, set 3 pass, you Book of Moon to the Neb, and they are either forced to negate it so that they can get a draw, or their monster goes face down and they're kind of screwed. Because then if they have no interruption for your summons, go to Triverr, bounce everything back, OTK. which overall is actually really good. This deck is surprisingly simple, and with Destiny Draw, you can essentially get whatever card you need, which most of the time is going to be Altair. He is essentially the best card in the deck, since he allows you to plus off your, you know, your materials evidence into the graveyard over the time of the duel. My opinion, if you want to stick to a good Esther, you can just have Blatamius, Deltaros, and Triverr. The ones that could be replaceable are probably Malevolence, Sin, Dweller, and Dark Rebellion Sea Dragon. These are just my preferred choices when it comes to a rank 4 pool, but if you want to have something different and good for you, you can do that just fine. Like the same I said for Book of Moon. You don't need these are just simply the optimal way that I found to play it. Still, deck is actually really fun. It's surprisingly good. The ability to bounce your opponent's field back to the hand to then discard a card from their hand is so nice to have, because it's such a level of power creep that it's really good, and I really like it. So I hope you really like this deck as well, and I hope that you do well with it. I personally have been doing really well with it in ranked, so yeah. Hope you guys like the replays, and I'll see you in the next video. And also Master Duel content coming up. The thing is, I've been playing way too much Master Duel, barely been playing Duel Links, and I came back to make some videos. But I have so much Master Duel stuff planned, because I've made already like 8 decks so far. God, you have no idea how much money I spent on that game so far. Anywho, alright. Bye, guys.